3 real lockdown horror stories. I was 16, in my 3rd year of high school. My day had 9 classes, with lunch happening during 5th period. Right after eating, I headed to my space science class. This class took place in one of 2 basement rooms at our school. My high school was huge with 3 floors, but even that wasn't enough space for all our classes, so they built 2 extra rooms downstairs. Being down there felt really creepy when you were alone. The basement used to store cleaning supplies, but they fixed it up to look more like a normal hallway. The big problem was that there were no speakers or announcement systems down there back then. Because of this, they never held first period classes in the basement since students couldn't hear the morning announcements. Everyone called this part of the school the chamber. Students always tried to get classes down there because it had air conditioning, the teachers were more relaxed, and it even had its own private bathroom. We had a test in space science that day. I usually finished first, because the class was pretty easy for me. After turning in my test, I sent a text to my friend in the other basement classroom, asking him to meet me in the bathroom, because I was bored. He said okay. I walked out of class and down the short hallway to the bathroom. A few seconds later, the door opened and my friend Jake walked in. We were just messing around and talking when Jake looked at his phone. He said someone had texted him that the school was going into lockdown. We both looked at each other with the same sneaky smiles. Neither of our teachers had seen us leave our rooms. That meant we could walk around the entire school during the lockdown without getting caught. We decided to sneak upstairs and explore the empty hallways just for fun. The worst thing that could happen was having to explain that we couldn't hear the announcements from the basement. When we opened the basement door to go upstairs, we were shocked to see that all the lights had been shut off. The hallways were almost completely dark, except for some light coming through the front entrance door. This was actually serious, because usually they kept the lights on during practice lockdowns. Something real was happening, and we weren't sure we wanted to walk around anymore. Jake stepped out into the dark hallway first, and I followed behind him. Then Jake looked down the hall and asked, "Who's that?" I looked where he was pointing, and saw a man coming toward us from the shadows. At first we couldn't tell if he was a teacher or not, but as he got closer, we realized this guy didn't look like any staff member we knew. He was dressed like a homeless person. "Let's get out of here," I told Jake as we rushed back down to the basement. Whoever this man was, he definitely saw us. We noticed both classroom doors were closed with the lights off, so we didn't want to cause a panic by bursting in. Instead, we decided to hide in the bathroom. I turned off the light right away, and then we both went to hide in the corner stall. The room was completely quiet. No air conditioning, no heaters, nothing. Just the sound of me and Jake breathing, and water dripping from the sink every now and then. Suddenly the bathroom door opened. Light from the hallway lit up the room, for just a moment before the door closed again, leaving us in total darkness. Jake and I tried our best to breathe quietly. The room was so quiet that we could hear someone walking toward our side of the bathroom. The person stopped right outside our stall and started breathing really hard, like they had been running. Jake and I were terrified. Then Jake did something really stupid. He whispered in my ear that we needed to crawl out through the other stall, but the room was so quiet that even Jake's whisper could be heard from anywhere in the bathroom. The heavy breathing outside our stall suddenly stopped. Then the person started trying to push our stall door open. That's when I whispered, Go to Jake." We both crawled under the wall to the next stall, then to the next one, and finally out to the other side of the bathroom. Behind us, the person was now violently banging on our original stall door. Jake and I jumped up from the floor and opened the bathroom door. As light filled the room again, we saw the strange man from upstairs standing in the corner. We ran to Jake's classroom and pounded on the door. The teacher let us in immediately. Jake quickly explained everything, while the teacher locked the door behind us. Jake mentioned seeing a gun sticking out of the man's pocket, I was surprised to hear this, because I hadn't noticed a gun, but I didn't say anything to contradict him. Usually a bunch of high school kids would be laughing at two students causing drama like this, but I noticed all the other students sitting in the corner looked genuinely worried. A loud bang at the door made everyone jump, and a couple of girls screamed in fear. Jake, the teacher, and I could see the man standing at our door, looking through the window while trying to turn the doorknob. After banging on the door several times out of what seemed like anger, he turned around and walked back down the hallway toward the stairs. We don't know exactly how long the lockdown lasted, but for over an hour we sat in complete silence, except for the teacher occasionally asking Jake and me worried questions and shaking his head at our answers. Finally, someone from upstairs called the teacher. He told all of us to walk single file up the stairs and out of the building, where police officers were waiting for us. Jake and I did our best to describe the man to the police and the principal. One of the officers patted me on the back, and then we were allowed to go home. After this incident, the school installed security cameras everywhere and spent a lot more money on safety measures. This story never made it to the news, so honestly we never found out if the police caught the guy. I'm convinced that man had no other plan but to hurt us, right there in that bathroom stall. I'm a retired police officer from New Jersey. During my 20 years on the force, the most disturbing call I ever got was for a school lockdown at a nearby middle school. I won't say the name of the school for legal reasons. It happened on a dark, stormy day. My patrol car was called over the radio to respond to a lockdown where a suspicious man had been seen getting out of a white van parked behind the school and walking through the back entrance by the boys' locker room. I drove to the back parking lot of the school and parked right next to the white van. Nobody was inside, and all the doors and trunk were locked. I opened the red back door that led into the gym hallway right by the locker room. The main lights had been turned off, so the entire inside of the school was dark. I took out my flashlight and used it to find my way through the halls. I made it to the main lobby where a woman came out of the front office. She quietly told me to check the boys' locker room, but to be careful, because the person might have a weapon. I called for backup on my radio and was told that help was already on the way. I went back to the hallway where I had entered and found the boys' locker room right next to the exit. I pushed the door open very quietly. There were no windows in the room, so there was no light at all except from my flashlight. There was background noise in the room from some kind of air vent in the ceiling, but even over that sound I could hear faint scratching noises or small banging sounds on the locker doors from somewhere else in the room. I was supposed to announce myself as a police officer, but honestly I was too scared. The tension in the room was incredible. I held my flashlight in one hand and my gun in the other as I quietly moved to the other side of the locker room. It seemed like no matter where I stood in the room, the banging and scratching sounds would be coming from somewhere else. I was standing in the corner of the locker room, right by the bathroom door, when the sound of someone slamming a locker door from another room made me jump out of my skin. I walked toward where I heard the slam and discovered it came from the boys' football team locker room. There was no door separating the main locker room from the football area. The lockers in this section were also 3 times bigger than normal. I finally got the courage to announce myself by shouting, "Police." After I yelled, a kid started screaming help from somewhere in the room. His voice was very muffled though. The boy was banging on a locker door on the other side of the row from where I was standing. When I realized the boy was trapped inside one of the lockers, I felt sick to my stomach. I told him I'd be right back. I called for backup again while running outside to where the white van had been parked. It was gone. My biggest mistake was not getting the license plate number first. I told the dispatcher to be on the lookout for a suspicious white van. I ran back into the school and told the staff in the front office to end the school day early and to send someone with keys to the locker room to get the boy out of the lock. The boy had been held by the man who threatened him with a knife. I believe the man was quietly trying to force the 12-year-old boy to come with him to his van. The boy was bleeding on his arm where the man had cut him when he tried to resist. The man's van was spotted a week later in a convenience store parking lot, where he was arrested after being properly identified. I was staying at a hotel in New Jersey while visiting a college I might want to attend. My family couldn't come with me, so I was traveling alone. After going on campus tours, I grabbed dinner at a nearby restaurant and returned to the hotel around 8 in the evening. I was planning to visit the campus again the next day. About an hour after getting back to my room, a strange alarm started going off. There was also a white light flashing from the corner of the ceiling. A recorded message started playing on repeat shortly after. It said something like, "All hotel guests, please stay in your rooms. This is a lockdown." I'd never heard of a lockdown in a hotel before. I didn't even know hotels had alarm systems like this. I found it more interesting and exciting than scary. Eventually the alarm sound stopped, but the light kept flashing. Every 20 seconds or so the message would repeat. It was only 9:30, so I turned on the TV for background noise while I changed clothes and brushed my teeth. I turned off the lights when I was done and got into bed. I watched TV for about 30 minutes before turning it off. The light was still flashing with a bright white glow every few seconds. It was definitely going to make it hard to sleep. I was starting to think about calling the front desk to ask what was happening when the phone rang. It was someone from the front desk. I expected them to tell me something about the alarm and when it would stop. Instead, the person on the other end spoke in a very worried voice. She told me to stay calm and walk out of my door immediately. I took that chance to ask her what exactly was going on. She told me that there was somebody in my room with me and to get out right away. I dropped the phone and immediately started looking around everywhere. Part of me was curious to see if someone was really in the room. I checked under the bed and looked in the empty bathroom. Nobody was in either place. Then I noticed the closet door right next to the bathroom. It was one of those closets with a wooden sliding door. It was open just a tiny bit, and through that small gap, I could see a person's face. At first it didn't register what I was seeing, but when the door slid closed, that's when I panicked and ran out of the room. The people at the front desk showed me security footage from an hour earlier. It showed some sketchy-looking man walking around the hallways, apparently looking for a specific room. When he got to my door, he opened it with a key card he had somehow gotten hold of. That was it. I stayed around while the police took the person away in handcuffs. It was a man definitely shorter than average, easily in his 40s. He looked right at me as they walked him past, as if he knew exactly who I was. It's scary thinking back that he might have been watching me for more than an hour from inside that closet.